Hello, 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 hello. So, welcome everybody. Welcome to everybody who is in the Zoom call right now to the TAMS team. Big shout out to you guys and a big welcome to everybody who is tuning in right now from YouTube. So, I'm aware that obviously it's 2021, it's a new year, new season. And there's probably a few people who don't really know me, have never seen my face before, which is perfectly fine. So I'm just going to explain who I am, what is TAMS, and what today is all about, basically. So my name is Kareem, and I'm a third-year medical student at King's College London. So before we get started with today, I'm just going to explain, kind of roughly how this is all going to work, like the agenda for today. I'll just explain who we are, what we do, and then our brilliant speaker is going to impart some wisdom on us, just a quick talk, about 25 minutes or so. And then after that, we're going to wrap up with a Q&A session for about 10 to 15 minutes. So everybody in the Zoom chat, if you're on YouTube right now, just make sure you're thinking of some questions so that you can just really put them in the comment box or put them in the chat box, whichever one. And at the end, we'll go through them all. And yeah, it's going to be good. We've also got a couple feedback forms, which we would really, really love for you guys to complete. Obviously, this is all for you guys, so we want to know how we can make it better, and also what we did brilliantly. So, without further ado, who is TAMS? What is TAMS? So TAMS stands for the Aspiring Medic Support, and we are a registered community interest company that's based in London, and we are founded by medical students for medical students. Our mission is pretty simple. It is to support aspiring medical students, and that means medical students as well. It's to support aspiring medics. So that means medical students and also soon to be medical students, because at the end of the day, we all want to be doctors. And our aim is to support these aspiring medics who are from a socioeconomically disadvantaged background in any way that we can. So through various methods, including mentoring, workshops, and online resources, we aim to equip the students to overcome the various obstacles that are unique to their or our lived experiences. So TAMS Talks, what is our talk? What are our talks all about? So as a widening participation company, our work doesn't just end once students are into medicine. We have to support people once they're inside, once you're in the degree. So TAMS Talks is a monthly talk developed by us to aid the professional and personal development of medical students and doctors, trying to take into account the unique challenges associated with socioeconomically disadvantaged backgrounds. So our aim is to expose the hidden curriculum and to bridge the attainment gap that is prevalent amongst medical students. So really exciting. This is now season 2 of the talks. Last year, we gave 3 talks. They were on time management, studying at medical school, and getting involved in research. So we're trying to explore some issues that are relevant to medical students, but not really covered in the standard academic settings. These are all available on the YouTube page. So for everybody who's there, once you finish with this one and you're like, that was great, I want to get some more, just head over to there. The link is, I'm playing. Obviously there's not a link, but just go and check them out because they're really, really good. Without further ado, I will introduce our wonderful speaker for today. So as you all know, the topic of today's talk is how do I manage my finances as an F1 doctor? Today, we have partnered with Wesleyan. Now, Wesleyan are a financial advice company, and they offer financial advice for GPs, hospital doctors, and dentists, as well as medical students like me and like you guys. So they've got a long heritage of providing a range of financial products and services exclusively for medical students and dental professionals. And our wonderful speaker, Veronica, is a student liaison manager for Wesleyan, and she has helped with the running of many educational talks touching on subjects like how to maximize your earnings, renting tips, and how to build a credit score with the aim of making financial transitions into F1 a smooth one. So now I will pass on to Veronica and allow her to just drop the knowledge on all of us so that we can learn a bit more. And I'll just mute myself and move to the background.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and it was amazing. So welcome everybody. I'm really excited to be here. Welcome to everybody on YouTube and also on Zoom. It's my first time being live streamed on YouTube, so I'm quite excited about this. But yeah, welcome everybody. So hopefully everyone finds this really, really useful. It's essentially explaining, you know, when you do graduate from university, a lot of people don't know what to expect when they start F1. So hopefully this should kind of help you in that financial understanding. On screen at the moment, what you'll see is actually a QR code. If you could scan that QR code, it'll take you directly just to a feedback form. It has a couple of questions on it and it's really easy, but it's really imperative that you actually do fill this out for us. As a bit of an incentive to get everyone to kind of do it, I am going to offer a £25 Amazon voucher as a prize draw, not to each person I wish, but as a prize draw. So if you do fill that out, and I'll send it out to the lucky person at the end of the week, and I'll let the person know, someone at TAMS know who's the winner as well. So if you've got any social media, they can post that out for you as well. I will also put the direct link as well to that. I think one of the guys from TAMS is going to do it on YouTube as well. So you'll have that. If the QR code isn't working for you, then there's also a link for that as well. Underneath is also our socials. So obviously, if you want to follow us as well, that'd be really great. But yeah, without further ado, just a little bit about Wesleyan and who we are. So I'm a student liaison manager at Wesleyan, and what we essentially do is help you guys out during your time at university, at medical and dental schools. But Wesleyan as a whole has been around for over 175 years. So it's a very financially strong insurance company, a finance and insurance company within the UK. We also have a junior advisory board. So that means we have a group of young doctors and dentists who basically can advise us on any of the products and things that we do. We also have financial consultants at Wesleyan as well, which, you know, only work with other professionals as yourself, and we're specialists in the field. So a financial consultant will only work with other doctors. They really understand your career. And also we are a mutual, so we don't have any shareholders or anything like that. So that's a little bit about Wesleyan and who we are. But last year, what we did is we started thinking about, you know, we had a lot of feedback from students because we've been doing this for many years and going out to universities, and we've been speaking to many people, and they said to us that they didn't feel that they were given the right kind of advice when starting F1. So the universities do a great job at kind of advising you on becoming the best doctor you can be, but in terms of your finances, many people feel left behind. So these are the things that came back, and these are the things that, you know, were most prevalent and that we're going to be concentrating on today. So salary progression, boosting your basic pay, first basic considerations, claiming expenses, transitioning to F1, building your credit score, and moving into the real world, and NHS versus private as well. Hopefully I'll have quite a lot of detail within these presentations, but obviously not everything can get covered. So if you do have any questions at the end, I will try my utmost in order to answer them for you. I do quite a few of these presentations, and sometimes the questions do borderline on advice, and due to FCA regulations, some of them I won't be able to answer directly, but if I can't answer them, then I will find the best person at Wesleyan who can, and then I will email you with the best answer as well. So just a bit of a heads up on that. So what we're going to have a look at first is your salary progression. So hopefully a lot of you know how much you're going to be earning, or you might not. So here's a bit of a chart looking at how much you're going to start earning as an F1 and then all the way to a consultant. So we found that a lot of students didn't actually know. So hopefully this gives you a really good representation. So as you can see on screen at the moment, there is a jump between F1 and F2. So you can really expect quite a strong salary. And also this is very much your basic pay. Later on in the presentation, I'll look at how you can actually boost your basic pay. This is very much the basic that you'll receive. As you can see, it kind of progresses as you do your training. So all junior doctors receive the same amount of pay, but this changes once you become a GP as a consultant as well. So as a consultant, you can expect to earn between 79, just over 79, and a little bit over 100k. But as I said, there's ways of actually boosting your pay, and also this is NHS earnings as well. So it doesn't include if you possibly do any private work in the future as well, which would be a boost to your basic pay, and this is for England. So some of you may have seen a pay slip before. or you may have not seen a payslip before. But obviously just having a look at it is a really good idea. So when people first get their payslips, they often don't look at it, but it's really imperative that when you do start F1, that you definitely do look at your payslip. So you can see on screen at the moment, it obviously says your name, your payroll number, pay period, and your tax code. So the tax code is one of the important things to have a look at. So when you do start F1 and you are working in the hospital, you should make sure your tax code just says 1250L. You want to make sure that you don't have an emergency tax code that's written on there, which I believe is W1/M1. You want to make sure that's not on there. If it is, then you need to speak to payroll within the hospital and get that sorted out. You may just need to do a P45 or something like that. Also on screen at the moment, you can see your basic pay. So this is, how much you're earning as an F1 with a take-home salary of just over 28k. And then you can see your tax at 20%. Unfortunately, we all live in the UK, so we're all going to get taxed, but you're going to be at the 20% tax because you're not earning over 50k yet. Then you have your national insurance. You'll have class 1 national insurance on earnings over 9.5k. And then you'll have your student loan if you have taken out a student loan. The good thing about this is you don't have to worry about it. It gets automatically deducted on your payslip, so it's automatically done for you, but it's on 9% on earnings over £2,214 a month. If you then go under that threshold, you won't then have to pay it for that month. So it just depends. So yeah, so don't need to worry about that one too much. It will automatically get deducted. And the last thing that you have on there is your NHS contribution. Now it does look like quite a lot that comes out of there. So it's £218.88. And what it is you contribute 9.3% of your salary, and then your employer adds 20.6%. It's one of the best pension schemes in the country. It is something that you're automatically enrolled into. You do have the possibility of exiting if you wish to do so. But as I'm saying, and I think everyone understands probably the importance of your pension and looking towards the future. So these are just some key facts about your student loans. We found that there were some myths and things like that about it. So 83% are predicted to never pay off their student loan. However, doctors generally will. And as you've seen, in the earlier slide, you could see your pay grades going through, and it's because you're expected to earn, quite good figures and into the 6-figure salary, which is great, but it does mean that you will be paying off your student loan. So that's that. There is also, after 30 years of graduation, it is cancelled. That is correct, and 25 years in Northern Ireland. Student loans will not be wiped off if you leave the country. Oops. Sorry about that. When you leave the country. So what you do need to do is you need to let student loans know that you are planning to leave the country for any reason, if you are planning to work abroad or anything like that, and you do need to set up some kind of agreement with them. Often people think it will just get cancelled if you leave the country. That is very much not the case. It is something that you need to deal with, as it is a loan essentially. You wouldn't just perhaps leave a mortgage if you were moving away. If you take a gap year, interest will continue to compound while you're away, and you'll need to have evidence that if you're not working, and interest inflates with RPI. So that's how your student loans kind of have interest. Boosting your basic pay. So this is really interesting, and I think a lot of people maybe don't know this. And it's something that you should know, especially when you're going into F1. So at the beginning, I very much showed you that as an F1 doctor, you'll be earning just over 28k. So that's very much your basic salary. So there's lots of other ways in which you can increase your basic pay, and this can often change month to month. So the way that this works, you have additional rostered hours. So it's a maximum of 48 unless opted out of the EU directive. And the way that this works, is if you do more hours in sociable hours, then you will be paid extra on top of this. There is also the possibility of doing night duty, so you get a 37% uplift on your basic pay. There's also a possibility of doing weekend allowance. So if you find yourself that you're working more than one weekend in 8, you are eligible for weekend allowance. Non-resident on call is another way. So being available on call entitles you to an annual allowance of 8% on your basic salary as well. And the last way in which you can possibly boost your basic pay, this one isn't actually available for foundation training, but it's something to think about once you are out of foundation training. So essentially, it's to place hard to fill trainees in training programs. So they will give you a bit of an extra boost if you do choose those training programs. So that varies from hospital to hospital. So those are all the different ways in which you can boost your basic pay. And it can depend on what rotation you're on and what the possibilities are on that rotation. So first pay slip considerations is the next topic. So tips for when you get your first pay slip. So many of you probably know how to budget, you know, during your time at university, you probably have lived out, maybe have part-time jobs, had to deal with, you know, your student loan or paying your rent or anything like that. But obviously when you do start working, you'll be earning a little bit more money, well, a lot more money. So it's really important that you keep a diary of when you've worked. So you saw previously, there's lots of different ways in which you can boost your basic pay. So you want to make sure you get paid for that. So it's really important that, you know, you keep a diary. If you've done extra weekends, if you've done extra hours or whatever you have done, that you have to put that down in a little diary. Also pay off any high interest loans or credit cards is really important. So if you have been at university and you have had to take out a credit card or a loan, it's really important that you check out what the interest is and you start paying off the high interest ones first, if anything. The reason for this is then you'll just be accumulating more debt and just be owing more money than necessary. Also consider maybe having 3 different accounts. So have one for your bills, your savings and general expenditure. It's really easy these days to do that. You have your online banking and you can literally just do it with the same bank and create 3 different bank accounts, just so you know that, you know, at the end of the month, it's always fine for you that you've got enough to spend and you're not spending what should be going towards your bill. Resist accelerating your outgoings. Probably seems quite obvious, but because your salary can more or less change month to month, it's really important that you maybe are only spending your basic pay and maybe saving the rest of it, or considering what different things you can do. Just because if one month we're earning 2,000 and one month you're earning 3,000, don't get used to earning the more, just because the following month you might earn less again. Also consider start working up your credit score. You can use apps like ClearScore, you know, to check your credit score and see how it's going and make sure it's always on tip top. And also keep all receipts and claim expenses back, which is what I'm going to speak about next, is expenses. So a lot of people don't know how you can claim expenses or what expenses are. So this is how HMRC define it. So an expense can only be deductible if it's used wholly, exclusively, and necessarily in the performance of the duties of the employment. So that's how HMRC define it. So essentially, these are the things in which you can claim tax relief for. So you can claim tax relief for professional fees and subscriptions. So, you know, your GMC, MDU, Royal Societies, anything like that, you can claim tax relief for. Business mileage or fuel. So this isn't to your normal place of work. So say you work at the Royal, your contract says you work at the Royal Free Hospital, but they ask you to then go to another hospital, then you can claim your mileage or fuel back on that, on tax relief. Any tools and specialist equipment that you have that's needed for your job that you've had to buy, you can claim tax relief on this as well. Any courses that are related to your job as well, and uniform if no laundry facilities are provided. You may need to do a self-assessment, but you need to just essentially go into the HMRC website, look for tax relief, and then you'll be able to just follow a guide on there. If you do have any issues with it, my recommendation is just to call HMRC directly or even tweet them. To be honest, I've had to do that in the past and they are really useful in putting you in the right direction. But it's really important that you understand that you can claim tax relief. So make sure you are doing it, and you can also backdate it for up to 4 years. So for any reason that you've gone to do it 1 year or anything like that, you can claim tax relief. So submitting a claim. So the way that it works is if it's something that's happening quite often, then the way that HMRC will deal with it is that they may increase your personal allowance. So it's currently at 12,500, but they may increase it or they may send you a check for the difference. It does vary, and there isn't a real clear-cut thing of which one they will pick, but that is the ways that you will receive your money back. And if you're earning over 50K, you can claim back at a higher tax rate, which would be at the 40%. So for instance, when you're an F1 doctor, you'll be probably claiming at the 20%, but when you're a consultant, you'll be earning, and you'll be able to claim at the 40%, which is great because you'll be receiving more money back. And as I said, your claims can be dated up to 4 years, and you just go to the HMRC website and you can search for P87 or self-assessment if self-employed. But again, always contact HMRC if you have any queries at all. So transitioning to F1. So preparing for the transition. So it's really important that at this stage, not at this stage, but when you're getting close to graduation, that you do have savings or plan ahead. You're probably used to getting like loans or bursaries and things like that, but just before you start working in the August or September, you will be earning at the end of the month and you won't have any money going in. So it's really important that you think about, you know, your GMC fees, house deposit, and where you are moving to. So if you've been living in an area which is cheaper, so for instance, if you've been like living in Birmingham and then you're moving to London, you need to be aware of how much your rent is going to be costing you and the accelerated price of everything moving into the capital. So make sure you've got those things ready and in place. So the worst thing is to start off and just be a bit. So these are different things that you've got to think about, your outgoings when you do start as an F1. So things like council tax. So as a student, you haven't had to pay council tax. That is something that you have to pay for. If you're paying a loan, then you do get a discount on it. But if you're living in a house with other people, then it is split between you. So that's something that you have to think about. You also have to think about your insurance protection or indemnity. That's something that you need to be covered for. Commuting costs. So where you live, is it walkable, or do you need a car, or do you need to take the train or tube or bus or anything like that? So you need to think about that, taking that out of your salary and how much that's going to be costing you. And especially when you start working, how you're going to be paying for that as well. And your rent, your mortgage, if you're taking one of those, and generally any other living costs, so obviously things like food and just. So your credit score. So these are just some facts and myths that we're going to go through. Unfortunately, when I'm usually in person, I'm able to do a bit of a hand raise. Unfortunately, we can't do that at the moment. So try and think about it in your head. So whether it's a myth or a fact. So a poor credit score means lenders won't lend to you. So that's a fact. I'll go over the reasons for it at the end. Lenders survey your credit score for risk. Give everyone a few minutes, seconds, not minutes. So that's a fact as well. You can get your credit scores and reports for free. That's a fact. The credit score your lenders, the credit score you check is the same one your lender will see. Myth. So having money in the bank means you have a good credit score. Myth. Paying off your credit card each month helps with your score. That should be a fact. So the way that this works, it's just to explain it a little bit better to you. So for the first one, poor credit score means lenders won't lend to you. That's the way that they have a look at your credit. So it is a fact, or otherwise the lenders who will lend to you, it can be at astronomical rates. So it's really important you look after your credit score. Lenders survey your credit score for risk. In fact, they want to see how well you've dealt with credit in the past, and that's their way of basically observing you. You can get your credit scores and reports for free. That's true. You can use things like ClearScore. There are other platforms as well, and you can use that on your phone and then on an app or online. The credit score you would check is the same one your lender will see. There's lots of different credit scores, and it's not lots of different credit scores. There's lots of different ways in which creditors look at your credit score. So it just means if one has said that they won't lend to you, it doesn't mean that another one won't. But it's very important that if you do have a bad credit score, that might be one of the reasons. But if it's something that you can't work out, it might be just because they're checking it in a different way. Having money in the banks means you have a good credit score. The whole thing about credit is seeing how well you've been lent to, not how well you save. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. And paying off your credit card each month in full helps with your score. This one is obviously because they've been able to lend you credit and you've been able to pay it off. So it shows that you're trustworthy to kind of lend credit to. So tips on keeping a good credit score. So sign up to scoring platforms, like ClearScore. Use your credit cards wisely. Obviously, you don't want to be overspending, and pay off debt with the highest interest first, because you don't want to be paying back more than you need to. So moving into the real world. So these are just some renting tips. So as I said earlier, a lot of you have probably rented before, but these are just some things. So landlords and agents will want to confirm your identity, whether you're going to be doing joint or sole tenancy, deposit protection. So make sure your deposit is going into that type of protection. Check with the landlord. Who's going to be responsible for bills? I think everyone's had a background of having a nightmare with somebody in the past who just never wanted to transfer money or pay for their bills. So make sure, and it will be your responsibility if your name is on that particular bill. So make sure you know. There are, agencies out there who do it for you, but those can come at cost. So it's probably better to have, responsible housemates. Inventory. So if there is ripped carpet or, a leaky pipe, then you want to make sure that's there and written down, so you don't get charged for it when you do move out. Same again with meter readings as well. You want to make sure that you've got correct meter readings so you're not paying overboard. So this is quite interesting. So we're going to have a look at the NHS versus private. It's got quite a basic level, and it's just kind of looking at the benefits that you get from each. So with the NHS, you obviously receive, your sick pay, your maternity pay, and paternity pay, and you receive your annual leave, and you also have your benefits in place. So generally, you'll have your benefits, including your pension scheme as well. So that's where the NHS lies. Obviously, if you work privately, then you won't have things like sick pay, maternity pay, and all those other things. And that's something that you'll have to have privately. So you need to have your own IP, your own pensions, and things like that. Obviously, the benefit of working privately is you will have the flexibility of when and where you work, and you actually have the possibility of earning a lot more money as well. So it's very dependent on which route you go down. A lot of people obviously choose to do dual, so that's obviously that possibility there as well. And if you do work privately, you will have to do a self-assessment for tax and NI as well. So that's a very basic example of looking at NHS versus private. But if you've got any more questions, then obviously I'll be happy to answer them. So that's the end of my presentation. I hope you found it very useful. It's very difficult speaking because when I can't see any reactions or anything like that. But that is everything. So if you've got any questions, then obviously the floor is open in a second. But as I said before, it's really imperative that we get feedback from everybody who is on the call. As I said, we're doing a £25 prize draw for those of you who do submit the form as a bit of an incentive, because I know this can be a bit lengthy. I'm sure there's so many feedback forms that you have to do all the time. And then at the bottom is also our social media links. So I'd be really grateful if you kind of click and follow us as well. I hope everyone found that really, really useful, and hopefully there's lots of questions coming my way. I will also pop a link as well to the what the QR code is for the feedback form. Just trying to... Sorry, I can't. Oh, there you go. Stop share. Perfect. Got it. So if there's been any questions at all?
Yeah, there has been. They're starting to really come in now, thick and fast.
They're coming in through YouTube as well, so I guess you can read them out.
They are. They're just they're sending them through to me, and I'll just read them out to you. So the first one we had. Well, first of all, thank you so much. That talk was brilliant. I was just watching it like, wow, okay, right, so go take that.
Hopefully you found it useful.
No, definitely. I think the first question we've got here is, should you try to pay off your student loan as quickly as possible?
So it's going to be really dependent from person to person, and because it borderlines a bit on advice, it kind of depends. It's a bit difficult because it kind of depends on your own finances, your own financial situation, and things like that. If that is something that you are thinking of doing or want to do, what I would do is I would suggest at the time when you're doing it, is speak to a financial advisor, and they'll have a look at your finances, because, for instance, at that time you've taken out a mortgage, or it might not make sense. So it really just depends on your own financial situation at the time. What I recommend is, if you do want to speak to someone now about something like that, simply go onto our website and find your local financial consultant. It's always free to speak to someone at Wesleyan. Or secondly, when you are thinking about it, when you have graduated, again, speak to a financial consultant at that stage. That's what I would recommend. It's just difficult to tell them what to do, just depending on their own financial situation.
Of course, yeah. I assume that there's going to be a lot of different factors.
Yeah, 100%.
Case by case. Mm-hmm. Okay. So a few more questions now about credit score.
Yeah.
So this one was, let me just get it up.
Yeah, sure.
First one then, how often should you check your credit score?
So if you have, so a lot of people check it monthly, I would say. So if you use things like ClearScore and you sign up to them, what they'll do is they send you like a monthly email. I've got it on my phone, and you can just have the app and you can just have a look at it, and they'll just kind of like nudge you and they'll tell you just to have a look at it. You'll probably know yourself about your credit score, whether you slipped up and not paid your credit card bill, or not paying your mobile phone bill and things like that. You'll probably generally know yourself if you're doing something to your credit score. But if you think you're doing everything fine, then everything will probably be fine. But I'd say check it monthly.
Okay, check it monthly. And you said that in your presentation, you said you can use things like ClearScore, was it?
Yeah, ClearScore. And I think there's one begins with E. I always say it wrong. I think it's
Experian, I think.
That's it. I used to say Expedia to everyone, so I've stopped saying.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've seen the adverts, Experian.
Yeah, so you can use those. They're all free, and they all pretty much do the same thing. Those are the two that I know off the top of my head, but you can use anything that you find useful.
Yeah. Okay. A couple more questions about credit score. What counts as a poor credit score? And other than credit cards, is there a way that you can improve your credit score, or is it all linked to credit cards?
So the initial way that people do credit scores is through credit cards, because obviously you're not going to probably take out a mortgage when you're 18. So it's the way, anything that you can be loaned credit to. So it's even probably mobile phones. If you take out a mobile phone contract, it's anything like that. Anything you've been contracted, or anything that you've been loaned money through, is the way that your credit score is basically created. It's just seeing that you can be lent something and are responsible. So yeah. Was there a second part to that question?
It was what counts as a bad credit score?
So if you use things like ClearScore, or Experian, and you put your credit score in that, it'll give you like 1 to 100, and it will also do it in a color light system. So you'll be able to see on the color light system what's considered good. So good would be green, middle would be amber, and red would be bad, or poor. Poor would be bad. So yeah, so just have a look at that.
Needs improvement.
Yeah, so just have a look at that. So that's the best thing. So if you're curious about your credit score, you've got no idea what yours would even start at, just download it today and have a look.
Okay, brilliant. I think there's probably a bunch of students now just like on their phones getting out ClearScore, done an experience.
I can see one on the chat which says, if we do not earn enough to pay off student loan, will this affect your credit score? No, it won't. So the way that it works with student loan is if you're not earning above a certain amount, then they won't ever take your student loan. So a lot of people who graduate, start off on 19, 20K. You don't start paying off your student loan until you're earning much above that. Can't remember the exact figure. It's something like £2,000 something a month. Unless you're earning over £2,214 a month, then you don't pay student loan. But obviously, as you guys as F1s will be earning more than that, so you will start off paying off your student loan automatically. So it's nothing you need to worry about unless you're someone who's going to be, working part-time for any reason.
Brilliant. A couple more questions coming in here. So when does a student account with an overdraft end when you're transitioning to F1?
So that's something you probably need to check with your bank. So contact them. It's not something like bank to bank really varies. So I would just ask your bank and speak to them. Sometimes, in my experience, sometimes they don't even notice that you've finished until like a little bit later. So it's just something that you should discuss with your bank, and it might be something that you just want to change over personally as well. So yeah, best to speak to your bank about that.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on.
Yeah,
definitely just make the call.
But don't worry about it too much. It's nothing you'll get penalised for if you don't change it over.
Okay. So I think we've got about 3-4 more questions here, so we'll just go through these ones. This one is about locum work. So you said that you can claim money for your commutes as a GP, as a doctor.
Yes.
If you're doing locum work and you move, so you're not in your usual like hospital, for example, or you're just moving around, can you claim your commute as money? Like, can you claim money back for that commute?
It will really depend what your contract says and where you're contracted. So it'll kind of vary. So I think it'll depend what your contract is. So if you've been contracted somewhere, then yeah, that's basically, if it's not your normal place of work, that's the best way to think about it. So it'll just depend on the situation.
Okay, so if you're here and then you have to move elsewhere, your base will pay you. Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. then what is the main issue? Also, what's the main issue that you've seen or you working have seen that doctors struggle with in terms of financial management?
I think that's a really, really broad question.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be able to answer that because I mostly work with students. So this has been very much designed for students and also for progressing into F1. So I wouldn't be able to give you an answer for that. But I could speak to our financial consultants at Wesleyan and see what the broad spectrum is and come back to you with an answer. So if you want to collect their email address or you then want to post it onto social media, what our answer is, I can speak to the financial consultants and see what they've said because they're the ones who work directly with the doctors. But the presentation I've given you today is all the things that people don't know before starting F1. So this is more what F1s don't know.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I can speak to them and I'll get a better answer because it's not something that I'd be able to answer because I don't work directly with doctors every day.
Okay, thank you very much. And then, so yeah, we'll definitely be sure to post that afterwards once you give us that.
Yeah, definitely. I've written it down, so I'll email you guys.
Cheers. So last three now. Are you aware of the difference in salary payments for those in London? Do you know, like for doctors or like F1s in London, do you know if it is significantly more than outside of London?
So you get a bit of a boost, but it's not a huge boost. It's a little bit extra. It does also vary from hospital to hospital, the boost on it, but it's a little bit extra. So we're unable to give an exact figure, unfortunately, because that does vary slightly, but it's a bit of a boost. There isn't an exact percentage or anything like that. So yeah.
I think I've seen for working in London, the salary does go up, but then obviously you have to account for the living expenses going up as well, like you've said.
Yeah, it also does depend on zoning of London as well. So if you're in zone 1 compared to zone 6, that's how they also increase it as well on living costs. So that's why we're unable to give you an exact amount of what they're giving you. So that's why I said it's just over 28k as a basic in England, but it can get a boost within London.
Okay, brilliant. So I guess for the person who asked the question, just have to really look at which hospital you're talking about in particular.
Yeah, and also maybe have a chat with other people who work in those hospitals. I guess you guys do placements all the time and things like that, so it's definitely worth asking if your plan is to move to London.
Brilliant. Second to last question now. So, do you have any tips for junior doctors who are looking to acquire a mortgage?
So that's a really excellent question. So what I would say is if you do want any tips on acquiring a mortgage, it's a bit, I can't give you exact advice on it because it does depend on everyone's situation, your financial situation at the moment, but I can more than happy, put you in touch with a financial consultant at Wesleyan and they can obviously have a chat with you directly. We are hoping within our student team very shortly that we are actually going to be start doing mortgage presentations as well. So they're underway and then we'll be able to give you a lot more information, once they've gone through our compliance team and things like that. But if you do want, facts for yourself and something that you're thinking about, then definitely I can put you in touch with a financial consultant. They can have a phone call and they can even do it via email and give you some hints and tips about exactly what you need.
That would be absolutely amazing.
So once we've maybe got our mortgage presentation ready, maybe I can come back and obviously do another talk with you guys as well about that, which will be a little bit more specific.
Yeah. So I see the chat's popping, they're loving it. Okay, so I think the final question then is, the people have loved the presentation so much.
I'm so
they're
glad.
asking if they'd be able to get the slides.
So we aren't able to give the slides, but we do have financial education handouts coming very, very soon. They are in their last stages of edits. So once they are ready, which I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks they should be ready, I will email them over to yourself at TAMS, and then you can share it with everybody else who's participated today. I'll be able to give those to you, so they should be ready very, very soon.
That is okay. Thank you very much.
That's all right.
Yeah, we'll be sure to contact you about that as well.
Yeah, they should be ready in a couple of weeks, so hopefully we'll be able to share them with you shortly.
Brilliant. Are there any more questions from everybody? Just ask one more, see if anybody's got anything else.
Yeah, as I said at the beginning of the presentation, obviously some questions are a little bit specific and they do borderline on advice, but the best thing to do, I will pop my email address, in the chat box now. So if you've been shy or anything like that and haven't wanted to ask anything, obviously email it over to me. And if it's something that I can't answer, then I will ask someone who's a specialist to answer it for you, and then we can communicate by email. If you want to share it in the YouTube link as well, that'd be great. And hopefully everyone's managed to do the feedback form as well. We'd be very, very grateful for the £25 Amazon prize draw as well.
Yes, thank you very much. So I think that concludes the talk. If nobody has any more questions, we will wrap it up there. Thank you so much, Ronica. This has been a great talk.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant. So what we'll do now is we'll just close. We'll play the closing visuals for everybody on YouTube as well. So if you guys have really enjoyed the talk, this is just one of many. Like I said, we've got loads on the YouTube channel, and we're going to have so many more coming through. So even more brilliant talks, just like the one Ronica has just given us. So if you want to be a part of the team, you can join the community. With our socials are there. We are TAMS, the Aspiring Medic Support. You can join us on LinkedIn. But yeah, thank you so much for everybody who has tuned in today. Make sure you do the feedback forms that we have included in the chat. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.